The following contest scheduled for one fall is for the NXT Championship.
I got the gift of gab and the gift of jab, and I'll put that lazy eye right back to work.
Any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
That's Luke Gallows there on the right. That's Carl Anderson. Anderson and Gallows are here.
Look at Nia having a little fun, sending a message to the entire women's division.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Oh, really? I'm not allowed in your little huddle?
No, sir.
Really? You know what? Big E, you just made the list!
Oh, no. Yes!
Hello, it's me, Shonny Constant. I'm here with...
Mr. Bean?
And we are both basking in the glory of the opulent Wrestle Palace Studios chandelier.
It's so opulent, I don't think you even have to clean it ever.
As a matter of fact, you're going to be shocked, because one day you're going to walk in here and it's going to be clean.
I'm not like publicly calling you out that you don't clean it. I'm just saying it is so shiny and so opulent. The light catches it no matter where you're standing in the room.
Yeah, but we don't get the halo of rainbow colors, which I think would happen if. But that's neither here nor there. We've got some wrestling to talk about. Are you excited about that?
Not really.
Oh.
I know we love to try and like look at the bright side of what's going on week in and week out. But this is 2 weeks in a row, and now last week I was like, is it me? This week I'm like, this is not just me.
No, and there's some good stuff going on.
There are things going on that I should be excited about. And by the time I get to them, I don't give a fuck.
Oh.
Like like Monday Night Raw started, and it's like, guess what? Kevin Owens is gonna fight Finn Balor, and I'm like, I love Kevin Owens and I love Finn Balor. And then by the time we got to it, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I found myself being most excited by and I didn't even realize that every week they start to schedule the matches for the following week. I've been watching every religiously now for several years, and this is the first time where I would sit through a match and then they present the coming next week on Raw.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. Ooh, that sounds like fun. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Right.
But not so much digging what is going. Do you think that it has to do with the fact that we were getting so many pay-per-views before it felt like there was constant excitement?
I'm sure that has something to do with it.
And now because it's this long wait to
it's been so long since we've had, like, guess what? You got 6 weeks until the next big event.
Yeah, and Backlash being such a dud.
Right. It really, really feels like post WCW WWE all over again, where it's like, and maybe that has something to do with the Fox deal, SmackDown. They're getting like a stupid amount of money from Fox to put SmackDown Live on Fox next year, and getting a stupid amount of money just to go over to Saudi Arabia to do a Royal Rumble. Like, maybe similarly, they're like, well, we must be doing great because we're rolling in the dough, so who cares?
Yeah, it's very interesting with the juxtaposition of all this money flooding in and the stock going bonkers. When, just weeks before I was banging the drum saying the ratings are going down, people are starting to walk out, things. What a weird dynamic that they're in right now.
And it's weird being a fan, as we're obviously a fan podcast. We don't have any like real insider knowledge or anything, but it's interesting to think about as a fan, and I wouldn't have thought about this like 10 years ago. How in the world do you show your dissatisfaction when... like, you have to figure out what are the numbers they really care about and how can you affect those numbers as a fan. You can't stop buying merch. That's how the wrestlers make their money. And it's not the wrestlers' fault we're not having a bad time. It's essentially management scripting bad things that the wrestlers just have to. They show up for work and they get their orders, and it's like, okay, I guess I have to act like these three guys are Bobby Lashley's sisters.
Well, we are... That's one thing we can bring up. How are you digging the Fast and Furious revival of old-timey sort of wrestling promos? We had, the little person stuff. We have the men and women's closing stuff. This week we had the classic food fight.
That's true. That's true, and it seems to me, because I didn't even think about it that way, that it's almost like every week it's like, hey, remember this old throwback from like 15 years ago that we used to do pretty regularly? But at least 2 out of 3 examples, it's a prime example of how some old tricks don't work now.
Right.
The men and women's clothing trick used to be kind of funny, now doesn't really work quite so much.
Yeah, I guess they worked so hard to get the PG audience and make it this sort of generic Wonder Bread,
right,
family friendly, that I guess to those people, if they somehow stay insulated from the internet and the world around them, then that's still odd enough or intriguing enough that it's like,
right,
ooh, this is something different. But yeah, in terms of people who have been subjected to media outside of network television, which I would assume is most of us, it does seem like it's just. I like the approach in that I enjoy the lightheartedness of it.
Sure.
You and I both liked the conga line spot in Backlash.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that was fun. So they are hit and miss, and I like that they are trying to inject some of that into things, and I think it's a good way to dilute some of the piss and vinegar of the angry smarks.
Yeah.
Because eventually they're going to have to accept that this is the way things are, or they're going to
have to pick up stakes and find someplace else to to get their enjoyment.
Yeah,
whether that be Ring of Honor or some other smaller wrestling company, or just leave wrestling altogether and enjoy action movies.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be.
Hotel Artemis with
Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That movie does not look great, but also looks like something I want to see. I can't explain it.
I'm very interested in it because it looks to me like it's going to be a B movie formula, but with some A-list talent.
Yeah.
And so that's a formula that I dig, a little bit like, was it Baby Driver? Was that the title?
Yes.
It was a similar experience, and that movie actually knocked my socks off. But there were no professional wrestlers in that one.
And I certainly wouldn't have predicted that Dave Bautista would have a somewhat successful, not obviously Dwayne Johnson successful, but a somewhat successful movie career. He's been in James Bond. He was Drax in the Guardians and all the Marvel movies. I would not have, when Dave Bautista was wrestling, I would not have looked at him and be like, that guy's gonna be a movie star.
No,
not at all.
When he came lumbering out of the Ohio River, all those many years ago,
the Leviathan. And as much as a lot of this week's show is going to be us, like I said, we like to try and keep it positive, and a lot of this week's show is going to be us going about a lot of things. I did like the food fight, and I think the difference in the food fight as opposed to, like, say, the midget thing that Big Cass did, or the Sami Zayn spot that you will come up multiple times in the next year at least about some of the worst of what can happen in wrestling. The difference is the amount of guys in that ring and the amount of freedom. Yeah,
absolutely. I would assume that it wasn't all micro scripted,
right?
But
there were definitely things like I saw a picture of like a page of the script, and there were things that you wouldn't have thought were scripted, like some of Heath Slater stuff was scripted, and there was actually a line that was cut out of the script that was like crossed out that was really funny, and I can't remember it now. But like Rhino sitting there with freaking bologna sandwiches.
Rhino is fantastic.
Yeah,
Rhino made the bit.
You've got the Ascension, like everybody kind of eating up the scenery in the background, and I think that's the difference.
It was a lot of fun. It spoke to the low rent tag teams that you and I both, I think, have talked. I know I've discussed wanting to see more of them.
Yes.
So we got all, and we're going to get a battle royal,
right?
Tag team battle royal,
which hopefully Braun Strowman will not come in and destroy.
Oh,
because he did that last time we had this.
No, I hope not. I like that. I like that.
Yes.
I love the B team angle. When Axel was saying,
we're both laughing, and I'm sure it's about the same thing. I love when Axel says stuff, and Kurt's like, "You know I can hear you." Oh man,
that's a great.
That's
an excellent bit. The B team criticizing the celebration of other tag teams. Very funny stuff. And hopefully this is the start of something new for all these guys that have long been languishing off of the television.
Right. I look at it, technically I was trying to look up that script thing while you were talking, and I cannot find it. I look at it as, like, I don't get as hopeful as you do about, like, when it comes to factions or when it comes to, like, low card guys getting more camera time.
Understood.
I don't get quite as hopeful as you do, but I always savor every second that they get to be on camera. Perfect example is watching Luke and Carl on SmackDown like have a promo this week backstage, which was interrupted by the Bludgeon Brothers, which was super weird because they said something about bodies will be liquefied, and I don't know if that's legal. I think you can get disqualified for liquefying your opponent.
Yeah, I don't recall the stipulations of this upcoming match.
I know that
I don't think it was that no holds.
Right, I know that way back in the day, Kane had done some heinous stuff in the ring, setting people on fire and whatnot, but I don't know that he liquefied anybody, and I think the official may have to call the match if you liquefy your opponent.
Certainly will have a hard time fitting that in the PG paradigm.
Very true.
Maybe this is the new era that I've been waiting for.
Maybe it is.
The liquefaction of the
wrestlers. I am sad that...
it would also help the pipeline being overfilled problem.
I think we found the answer.
Maybe they'd found the answer. And
I'm sad that the first sacrifice to this will be Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows.
Oh, that is a terrible
I love
sacrification.
The Good Brothers.
No,
right.
Do not sacrificate the Good Brothers.
That's right. Hootski.
Oh.
I love that they have their own like language.
Oh yeah.
Goods Brothers and Hootski and calling people nerds and stuff. Like it's hilariously charming in a PG way of just like they're just dads. They're just dads trying to be cool, and it's to me it's hilarious. Probably because I'm of the dad age.
Right.
May not be a dad, but I'm of the dad age, so I find it funny. Maybe teenage wrestling fans are super embarrassed by the club. I don't know.
I could see that. But,
yeah,
that's not.
They're probably super embarrassed by the B team too, and I think
no.
I agree that the B team is like as I've brought up before. Mick Foley put it in one of his books, best of like it's wrestling is very much like a 3-ring circus. If you didn't show up for the Wild Lions, then maybe you showed up for the Clown Car. If you didn't show up for the Clown Car, then maybe you showed up for the Trapeze Artist. And wrestling's the same thing. If you showed up for the Cruiserweights, then you got to sit through the big guys. And if you didn't show up for the big guys, then maybe you showed up for the humor kind of thing, like a little bit of everything. And at the end of the day, we want it to be fun.
Yes, and the B team is fun.
Right.
Finn Balor versus Braun was fun, and as I love my connections to bigger and better things,
yeah,
I like the fact that KO is going to be facing
what is it?
Finn Balor next week.
Yeah.
Finn Balor, because we have the New Evolution connection. We have the club connection. As you said, I get far more optimistic than you do.
Yes.
Actually, while you can hear optimism in my voice, I absolutely believe nothing is going to come of this.
Yes.
But I still am excited because those are two guys that were excelling in NXT right when I came in and just after I came in.
Yep.
So I'm finally getting to see the flowering of the seeds that I saw planted.
Right.
Early in my in this current incarnation of my wrestling fandom,
and it was real fun to watch Kevin, who we say every week is the top heel, no matter what show he's on. But to watch Kevin grab the house mic in the middle of the match and Braun, beat him up, Braun, and then like 5 minutes later do this, say, Finn, get him, Finn.
Yes. So is there anyone more consistent? I mean, coming out of the Indies, you have a guy who has none of the looks of a classic professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Although the perfect looks, as I was listening to an older episode of a podcast called WrestleSplania.
Yeah.
Recommended by our boy Freddie Rockhang.
Yep.
And talking about the fact that they made the excellent point that he is the prototype creator wrestler of 90% of the wrestling fans. He's a fat guy with a beard with a cut-off T-shirt.
Yep.
And so he has that, but he also had, coming out of the Indies, an incredible moveset. I mean...
Well, that's the thing. It's like if he didn't have the moveset he has, if he didn't have the charisma, the natural charisma he has...
But it's the consistency with that charisma. He is not a guy who's reinventing himself, Like, everyone is so excited about Broken Matt Hardy, myself included. Huge mark for that. But... Kevin Owens is the same. If you watch old promos and old matches from the early 2000s when Kevin Owens was in his first few years, at essentially a rookie professional wrestler, he is the same character.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
He just kind of gets it. I would make the comparison that CM Punk was very similar, and that when CM Punk was CM Punk, no matter where you saw him and when you saw him, like he had it, just right off the bat kind of thing. And I agree, Kevin Owens is definitely that kind of person. Like he just gets it, and he has for years. And he's the kind of guy that it's a blessing every time we get to see him, whether it's on TV or at a live show or whatever you get. If you get a chance to watch Kevin Owens wrestle, this is what wrestling is all about. And I hate the idea that I'd heard a couple of weeks ago that Vince McMahon had said something to Kevin Owens. Is like, if you don't start working out and dropping a bunch of weight, I'm just going to put you in the middle of the card.
Oh, really? Where did you hear that?
It was one of the dirt sheets or something like that. The Vince McMahon is, and this isn't the first time we've heard that. Like Vince, we know Vince likes to work out at 3 a.m. He doesn't sleep. He's 70 years old and he's got the body of a larger Finn Balor at this point. And like I get it, but you have to, at the end of the day, you have to understand that, like I said, Kevin Owens has a charisma and a mind for the business that not a lot of your guys have. Kevin Owens, like I was saying last week, Kevin Owens is the kind of guy that you can throw a curveball on live TV in the middle of the ring and he can work with it. And you don't have a lot of guys that I feel can do that.
No, I agree. And I'm especially when you're cited sources I don't remember. I find it hard to put too much credibility into that. I mean, you did just get a 5-year contract extension, so
yeah, exactly.
I don't want to get too down about the thing, but no, certainly when he was before he even made it to WWE, if you find old interviews, he sort of had discussed, well, I'm sort of done with this whole indie thing, and I'm probably not going to make it to WWE because I don't have a WWE body.
Right.
To me, it makes all the sense to have an outlier, right? Like
absolutely.
You have plenty of body guys.
Yeah.
It's fun to have a guy who looks like a plumber.
Right.
But being able to do the incredible work that he does. So
well, and at the same time, how many of these body guys have we as wrestling fans seen come and go that like, wow, that guy is chiseled, but he is awful. Like, don't stick a mic in front of his face. He is dangerous to watch work, kind of thing. I mean, we're kind of watching one of those now. I wouldn't say he's dangerous, but he sucks all the. You're
not going to talk about Bobby again, are you?
Yes, that's who I'm talking about.
Okay, before we get into this, let me ask you a question. I was watching Bobby Lashley, and I was giving this a lot of thought because you dislike him so much.
Sure.
And I don't have enough to work with in terms of I wasn't around for his previous stint, so I didn't have a preconceived notion of him coming in. Do you think there's any chance that it isn't that he's boring, but it's that the muscle structure of his head makes you think that he is an alien from They Live? Because his head is, you can see every muscle in his head, and it's almost like you're wearing the sunglasses.
Whoa. I think I'm going to need to try on every pair of sunglasses the next time I see Bobby Lashley on TV.
Okay.
Just to see, you might be onto something.
Didn't get the pop I was hoping for, so let's just go ahead and move on. What did they do this week? I know they tried to recover from last week.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because I was so down about last week's segment that having Sammy come out and do a public apology, is fine. It's, on one hand, it's a admission through kayfabe that we understand nobody liked what we did last week. So we're going to in character have Sammy apologize for what we did last week. But I also felt like there was the way Sammy delivered his apology and then went into not quite a pipe bomb about telling the crowd that they should be apologizing to Sammy because Sammy deserves better. And that's what stuck with me, is Sammy deserves better. And I wonder if that was in the script.
Interesting.
Because I feel like that particular line felt like Sammy was talking to them backstage about like, look, I'll do what you tell me to do, but I want you to know I recognize that I deserve way better than what you're giving me.
Okay. Could be. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. I was asking on one of the boards that I'm on who people think are guys. My list includes Cesaro and Rollins, and AJ Styles for sure. But guys who consistently make their opponent look like a champ.
Yeah.
And Sami Zayn was a name that came up. And I guess I've sort of forgotten that because he's gotten so little work since he's made it to the main roster. I mean,
for sure.
He's such a C-grade television player.
And I've really enjoyed over the last, 6-8 months or something like that, I've really enjoyed watching a heel Sami Zayn because he's one of those characters that after you watch for a long amount of time, you're like, well, he can't flip. Like, he's just too likable. Like, you can't make me boo Sami Zayn.
Yeah, I love heel Sami.
And
I love the Cammy show.
Right. I don't know that they're successful in making me boo Sami, but it's fascinating to watch a new facet of his character.
Yes, and it's made him a little more inventive. Like, to me, the Sami Zayn's reading glasses would be in my top 5 wrestlers right now.
Yeah.
Even though we have yet to see them work in ring.
Right. No, having him pull the reading glasses out is definitely a bit of a heel move.
Yeah.
For sure, which is fantastic, and like his obnoxious dancing.
The dancing is
amazing.
Yeah,
I love it so much. There was I think I'd shared it in the One Fall Show group on Facebook, the video from the house show where Kevin took the camera and like Samoa Joe's music case. He's like, I love this song. I love this song.
Bouncing up and down on the turnbuckle.
It's just great. It's
That's
so
one
fun.
thing that they do have going for them, in my opinion, right now is. Finally getting to see Samoa Joe on a full-time basis is promising. We haven't yet necessarily gotten the great moment from it, but the fact that he's there every week delivering the best promos in the game as far as I can as far as I'm concerned right now.
That's what I was going to say when we were talking about Kevin Owens, is like you obviously have The Miz on SmackDown, which he is the Kevin Owens of whatever brand. That's why you can't really have them together.
Makes sense.
Because their characters are both very similar and they both kind of like take over whatever segment they're in. But I really I wanted to say about Samoa Joe that this week I watched SmackDown with my girlfriend Amy, and she knows that I'm a huge fan of Samoa Joe. And most of the people that we watch wrestling with, we love Samoa Joe. But she doesn't have the history of Samoa Joe that we do in like why we love Samoa Joe. But she's watching him in the ring deliver his sermon right at the top of SmackDown. And she turns to me and she's like, Samoa Joe is really, really good at talking.
He sure is.
Really, really, like I'm not as big a fan of Samoa Joe as you guys are, but I am really drawn into this. This is really fantastic. And I was like, yeah, that's one of the reasons I love about Samoa Joe is he's got a very Jake Roberts delivery of like, I can scream at you, but I don't have to.
No, he sure doesn't. And we've gotten to see some. Was this the week where he climbed up on the ladder and okay.
Just grab the briefcase?
Yeah, that was a long promo. He didn't stumble at all. It was well delivered. It didn't feel scripted. It felt like, I think, like a preacher. I mean, it was just this is who Samoa Joe is, and he was presenting that person to us,
right,
in a most incredibly refined way,
right.
Very, very effective, and but again, as we've been saying here now, so that gets me excited for the Money in the Bank tournament, which is still
3 weeks away. Right. Well, and that was the thing going into SmackDown that they told us last week that was going to be a big deal, is we're going to get to see Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe fight, and the winner gets a Money in the Bank shot. And I'm like, well, beyond it being a Money in the Bank shot, I love both of these guys. I can't wait to see this match. And then we get to Monday night, and they do the promo and everything, and then Big Cass comes in and inserts himself into the match.
Yeah, not the best. Although I will say,
and by the time I get to the end of SmackDown, I don't care.
I didn't go that far because the one thing I did learn about myself, because when it became evident that it was going to be a triple threat match, I had the same feeling that most people did. But as the program continued, I thought about it more, and I thought, Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe is a program I want to see.
Oh, absolutely.
So this sort of teaser, this is where the slow boil BKM thing really works out.
Yeah.
Because rather than just get that match and then get it out of my system and say, okay, bring on the next pairing, it allowed me to say, oh, wait, you know what? No, this is better than a random Tuesday night in the long wasteland between two pay-per-views. So I'm glad that is the case. that we're going to have to wait. And hopefully that means that we're going to get a long program between the two of them.
Yeah.
Although we also have a long program waiting with Daniel Bryan and The Miz. I haven't forgotten about that.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I
So-
think we're all just biting our fingernails, waiting for them to, every time they're within eye shot of each other.
Yeah, so I guess what we're saying here is that if Daniel Bryan can just take on all comers, the product would be so much better.
Right.
Because there are excellent programs waiting to be had with Daniel Bryan, and everything else is a little questionable. Like Ronda and Nia, that feels a little forced. And that promo was whack.
Ugh. The best thing, I said this yesterday with some friends. I was talking about what happened in wrestling this week. And like the best thing that could possibly come out of Money in the Bank with this Ronda and Nia Jax thing is for Ronda to align herself with Stephanie McMahon and pull the belt off of Nia Jax, and then just Brock Lesnar her way through the women's division on Raw, which I'm not a big fan of, but at the same time, like, Ronda's not great on the mic. Ronda so far is okay as a wrestler. Like, just let her be mean face Ronda, and let Stephanie do all the talking for her, just like a Paul Heyman, and let her just knock down every opponent up to whoever you want to actually build up.
Like your girl in NXT is doing.
Oh, yeah, Shayna Baszler, exactly. Which is a little dangerous because that means that they're both essentially playing the same character, but they're on different shows. So that's...
No, and
I find that
sure,
acceptable.
It's almost assured that they will eventually be entwined, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't think...
You want to talk about a long program.
Right, yeah.
Like the 4 horsewomen of NXT versus the 4 horsewomen of MMA. Like, they just signed the other 2 as of like 24 hours ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other 2 are on their way to the Performance Center, which means all 4 of them are at the Performance Center a couple of days a week. Like, this is a thing they're setting up. If not for this year's WrestleMania, then like maybe next year's WrestleMania. But if they can get it this year, then they're gonna.
Or if it's like the Balor Club, maybe the WrestleMania of 2014 or 2024, rather.
2024, right?
Which I think is going to be the debut of holographic Taker.
Ooh. Well, see, I'm excited.
I'm not sure yet, but
I'm excited. Hopefully by then we'll actually it'll be Kenny Omega versus holographic Taker, because I mean he's fought a broom, he's fought a blow up doll. Like, if anybody can put over a holographic wrestler, I would say Kenny Omega is the guy.
That is an excellent call.
Yeah.
Book it. You hear that, WWE?
2024.
Book it. 2024 WrestleMania.
Take all that Saudi Arabia money and snap up Kenny Omega.
It's even got a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Hold on a second here. All right, before we fall too far from it, Rollins versus Jinder this week. Again, one of those guys that can make anybody look phenomenal. Now, I do not dislike Jinder like a lot of people dislike Jinder. I think that he is a middling heel that did not deserve to have the push for the championship as he did.
Right.
But he's a better performer, especially in promos and in side story sort of ambush stuff,
Right.
than he was a year or 2 ago when he was carrying that belt. But he's also not a grade in ring performer. But to me, watching him against Rollins felt like watching 2 A-grade performers, because Rollins is simply that good.
Right. That's where I would put that. That's a lot of Rollins.
Who? Yeah, for sure. Who are some other guys like that you can think of, either on the roster now or historically? Shawn Michaels comes to mind as being
Absolutely.
Everyone feels is the number one of all time.
Absolutely. I think Ric Flair falls in that category as well. Ric Flair was he was very good at making his opponent, no matter who it was, making it believable that they were on par with the Nature Boy.
And another guy that was consistent, right? Like, in terms of...
Like, he didn't have a real flashy style, man. You knew when Ric Flair went up to the turnbuckle, he was going to get body slammed off the turnbuckle.
Yes.
It's like when the Big Show goes up the turnbuckle, it's like, well, you're going to miss. But it became an enjoyable spot.
Yes.
That it's like, oh, Ric Flair's going to get thrown off the turnbuckle again. Here we go. But at the same time, this is territory days where Ric Flair would just take the NWA belt from territory to territory and put on 60-minute matches with whoever your top guy was. And his entire purpose for being there was to fill the seats and to make your top guy believably your top guy. Mm-hmm. Make you believe that our top guy is good enough to hang with Ric Flair. So our top guy is great. So I would definitely say historically, Ric Flair was definitely one of those guys. I would say to a degree, Hulk Hogan probably was. I mean, historically, we've all heard stories that he was very political backstage, but typically, I don't remember seeing guys in the ring with Hulk Hogan and thinking they don't deserve to be there. And maybe that was youth.
It could also be the opposite of Impact, where he was so questionably talented that he just made everyone look great.
Right.
Because he was like a D-grade leg drop.
Yeah, well, there is that.
The inverse effect, where even the worst wrestler, if you have 3 moves, he looks way more interesting than Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
The shake and
I think in the last couple of years, John Cena's become one of those guys.
Yeah.
That he will make his
call.
opponent look good. And I don't think, like, historically, we all hated John Cena because when you saw him insert himself into something, you knew the outcome, kind of thing. And if wrestling fans hate one thing, it's knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, that really sort of shifted with the open challenges, didn't it? Or do you
with
think it happened before then?
No, I think with the United States title and the open challenges, I think that was an active decision, possibly even on John Cena's part, to shift his character to somebody where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm still John Cena, and yeah, you pretty much feel like you know what's going to happen when NXT call-up Sami Zayn shows up in Montreal to face me for the open challenge, but I'm going to make sure you remember who my opponent was. I'm going to make sure you remember that this Cesaro guy that everyone loves but doesn't really get a whole lot to do. I'm going to make sure to put on a 20-minute classic with him,
okay,
and really showcase his style and his skill. So I definitely say that. I mean, you mentioned before, AJ Styles is definitely one of those guys. We talked about that last year with James Ellsworth. That was the perfect example of, like, yeah, James Ellsworth has no business being in the ring with AJ Styles, but AJ really made it look like James had a chance every time they were in the ring together.
Jinder, again,
Yep.
AJ Styles, he had his best matches of that year on SmackDown were with AJ Styles, bar none.
So I would say that we definitely have a handful of people that I feel like you can put them in the ring with, No Way Jose, and make people who are just rolling their eyes at the conga line go like, No Way Jose's got some skill. All right. But it's like everything we were saying, it's a little few and far between with them allowing people to showcase their skills. Which, ironically, speaking of showcasing their skills, have you noticed that 205 Live is basically like NXT now? They just like play you a promo saying, hey, this is going to happen this week on 205 Live, like once an hour, and that's it.
I sure have, and as a result, I have no idea what's going on in 205 Live.
Yeah, I saw this morning that Buddy Murphy, who is Alexa Bliss's in real life boyfriend, and Cedric Alexander, who is the 205 Live champion, the Cruiserweight champion since WrestleMania, put on a great match on 205 Live. But, it's one of those things where I think they really need to not only, like, I'm not saying put the 205 Live guys on SmackDown and Raw again, because I don't think that works. However, not only do you need to let us know what's happening on 205 Live this Wednesday or this Tuesday night, why not show us what the main event was last Tuesday? Why not show us a little bit of, like, 60 seconds of highlights?
Yes, that's an excellent idea.
To let people know this is what you're missing on the network.
Especially on Raw, where you're seeing, 3 times you'll have a promo package for what's happening at the end of the third hour. It's
yeah.
Yeah, we've been watching there, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously, if you're listening to One Fall Show and you're one of these people that tunes in late and needs them to tell you what happened at the top of the show, please message us. Because I don't know that these people exist.
No, I don't know who they are.
If you're watching Raw, you are locked in for the 3 hours, even if you're fast forwarding through some of it.
What a strange existence it is where you're flipping channels still, first off. Secondly, you flip to Raw and say, no, maybe I'll see what's on the food channel. But then a highlight for the main event comes on and you say, oh, no, I'm going to stick with this. That seems as though it's a very...
Or even in, like...
I agree with you. It's appealing to a model that almost no longer exists.
Right.
It's like if 4 times an hour they promoted which DVD sale that they were going to put on the market this week. It's like, oh, that's not really a thing.
Yeah. I am sure that there are people who are still huge wrestling fans that are living in an area that, does not have a good internet connection. They're probably not listening to our show if that's the case. But does not, like they can't stream this stuff on Hulu. They don't have a DVR, so for them possibly letting me know what I missed because I had to work until 9 o'clock. What happened in the 8 o'clock hour? Like, I'm sure that's useful. I've never met one ever. I've never even talked to one. I don't know who these people are, and I agree that it's an outdated model. Like, why don't you show us highlights of NXT if you need to fill a minute or two?
That surprises me that they don't show. Still in this, NXT has gone from a pre-taped show to a 4 times a year filling a basketball stadium level event.
Right.
The fact that it's they completely stuff it under the carpet until someone gets a call up. It's very, very strange.
Absolutely. And you mentioned like it's a 4 time. We're so used to it being the major shows, and for 2 weeks now, I've been kind of nonplussed about most of what's happening on Raw and SmackDown. That before I came over today, I was like, I'd seen the commercial that Dakota Kai was going to fight Shayna Baszler. And I love Dakota Kai. I loved her since the Mae Young Classic last year. So I'm like, pretty sure Shayna Baszler is going to kill her. But I'll watch NXT because I really haven't enjoyed what's going on. And there's an NXT event in 3 weeks in Chicago for Money in the Bank.
Okay.
There's an NXT takeover. We're going to get to see Ciampa and Gargano in a street fight.
Ooh. That
apparently was going to be a ladder match of sorts, but they decided to change it because Money in the Bank is happening the next night.
Makes sense.
They don't want to overshadow the 2 ladder matches that are happening
Chicago
the next night.
street fight goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know Shayna Baszler is defending her title. I don't know against who. Aleister Black is going to be facing some huge guy that he cut a promo with. I can't remember his name either. But it was... I'm not going to say it was any better than what it was. I was real excited at the end of the third. Nikki Cross came back.
That is exciting.
Yeah, I'm real excited that Nikki Cross is wrestling again. Like, that's real cool. It's still kind of unfortunate that they called up all of Sanity, but her.
Very, very annoying.
But it reminds me of when they called up Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte and left Bayley in NXT. Like, you have to leave somebody in the in the NXT division. Otherwise, you're just pillaging it.
As you bring up Bayley, boy, we got to see again this week that she is not good on the mic. Oh, yeah. My Lord. She had all this time off, and then she gets to come back and have her big moment, and she sputtered on the mic. I mean, like, it was almost as though this was her first time in the ring.
Right.
And I love Bayley. I was so excited for Bayley. I love the noodle people dancing around.
Yeah.
I like her positive attitude. Everything about Bayley I'm a fan of. But boy, since that no holds barred fight that she had with Alexa Bliss, where she didn't get any digs in at all because she took the high road, and it's just Alexa's talking in the background.
I know. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything, but as soon as we talk about Little Miss Bliss, your Amazon Echo in the background is like, "Did you talk to me? Were you talking to me?"
Maybe it just speaks to how down you and I both are, just sort of in these doldrum moments. But boy, that really it was a bummer. It was a bummer to see that.
Kind of a bummer, yeah.
You know, she had a pretty good
now, granted, watching her
package promo in the backstage where she's, and her Twitter's great. She tweets great, and it's like, I've been dreaming of this for my whole life, and yada yada yada. Who as a little girl dreams of a ladder match? Me, and then she does the promo. Hey Becky, but it just didn't work. It didn't work.
Well, and that was part of, like I said, I love Dakota Kai, but I quickly came to the realization watching her and Shayna Baszler on NXT this week that she's just Bayley 2.0. She's just New Zealand Bayley.
Very much New Zealand Bayley. That's. Yeah, no,
so I almost like I don't want to see her move to SmackDown or Raw because it worked out so poorly for Bayley. Like Bayley is the example, in my opinion, of hey, some things work in NXT and do not work in a major market.
Yeah, boy, you have to be able to deliver a promo though. It was really bad.
But when she came out, you see the crowd shots, and there's still little kids with Bayley shirts. And if
absolutely, there's a reason to love. Plenty of reasons to love Bayley.
Yeah, if she's still working for that demographic, then more power to her. She's just not for us.
Stone Cold loves Bayley.
Yeah.
She needs to go visit him on the Broken Skull Ranch and just get a 3-day boot camp on how to get tough on that mic.
Yeah, probably.
That's to me the only thing that's missing. But because, let's say we get 4 matches an hour or 3 matches an hour on average, one of those matches is going to be a women's match if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So it's exciting that there are all of these great women coming into the WWE and moving up the chain and yada yada yada. But we still haven't seen the greatest stuff out of the 4 Horsewomen, and now we've got all this new talent. And it's not as though the blossoming roster is going to lead to more ring time.
Right, exactly. It's the problem we've talked about before, in that like there are a lot of people in the roster right now. This is a rare occasion where there is more people than there is time. And when you have a 3-hour show on Mondays, how is that possible? But it is. However, out of all the bad things I've had to say about Raw, the 2 things that really sparked my interest, made me happy, were the B Team Barbecue and the women's match, the women's gauntlet match. It was super cool to see Bayley walk right through 2/3 of the Riot Squad, even though I believe that the MMA fighter girl deserves that. I never remember her name. Deserves much better. She deserves much better than me, who can't remember her name. But it was also super great to see Ruby wrestle essentially 2.5 matches really, really well. To see her riot kick, I think it was Natalia, just out of nowhere. Like, she was getting stomped and then pow, riot kick.
Ruby's really over with you. Much more so than with myself. Although I like how this is shaping up. Do you think that the Riot Squad makes an impact on the actual ladder match in a couple of weeks?
I don't know, because none of them are in the ladder match.
Right. I'll give it some thought. Maybe we can save that for next week's show.
Whereas,
or do we still have 2 weeks before the...
We have 2 weeks.
Good Lord, WWE.
However, on the men's side, I am definitely of the belief that the entire New Day are going to show up for the ladder match. Because it's a ladder match. There's no disqualification, so there's no reason for them not to. There's no reason for them, like, obviously they're going to have to officially say one of them, is a member of the match when it happens. But, then you've still got, for me, Big E should be in the match. So you still got Xavier and Kofi outside the ring causing shenanigans.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Terrorizing poor Corey Graves.
Sticking his hand with pencils. And
I was gonna say, did you see
that?
Like, Big E threw his jacket, I guess, last week and hit the pencil, one of the pencils on the table, right into Corey Graves' palm, and he had to have the doctor look at it to make sure he was okay. I saw it on, I think it was on his Instagram or something like that. So then, Big E made it a point to throw his jacket at him again this week, like a jerk. Maybe but had a fantastic match with The Miz.
Excellent match.
Yeah, absolutely. Match. How did you feel about the dance-off?
Again, it's one of those shenanigan things. I thought it was fine. It's a fun thing. I love seeing Rusev Day. Though, the story of this week is that I'm more excited by, and I normally do not care for mixed tag matches.
Sure.
Because I don't like the WWE format of mixed tag matches where as soon as a woman tags in, everyone else has to back off, because we know that this is sports entertainment. God knows that Vince McMahon has made it very, 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 very clear that this is a work. But not even in a work can you have a woman fight a man.
Yeah.
Because
the men are big and muscular, and who would believe that this little tiny girl can beat up a man? Well, I mean, we watch a lot of movies and television shows. There were 7 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer that were all about a little tiny girl beating up dudes.
Yeah, 7 years of crap that no one wanted to see, because that's not the way the world works, Chuck.
Right. But as soon as I saw Rusev Day come out, I was like, oh man, I hope the Usos come out with Naomi, and then they did, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. Man, I love the Usos, and it's another one of those things like Braun Strowman. Like, if you'd have told me 3 years ago that the Usos were going to be super over with me, I'd have been like, the guys in the orange shorts?
Oh, nah. Yeah. I had that same experience with the Bar and with the Miz and the New Day. Frankly, 2 years ago, you would have said that you're going to be so excited to see the Miz and Sheamus mixed in with the New Day,
right?
And no, wouldn't have
right.
possibly.
Like, no way.
Now this is just
not at all
a possible thing. But that's where that's where my optimism comes from, Mr. Bean. It's from the Miz and the New Day and even Sheamus. Before we go any further, speaking of Sheamus, do you think that listeners in Scotland, Ireland, and the UK, when they see Big Cass, think to themselves, who is this big jabroni with the silly accent who can't do nothing but stick his boot into people's faces like we do about Sheamus.
I'm sure they do.
I think that...
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. So eventually Cesaro needs to take
Big Cass
under his wing and teach him a few more moves and a little bit of...
Maybe get Big Cass a kilt.
Charisma. Yeah, that would perhaps work. Something.
I don't remember where I was.
We're scattered today, man.
I know. I don't remember where I was going with it, but
frankly, we're about 45 minutes in, and I think based on the attitude we had when we sat down today, we're working through a pretty darn good job.
I would agree. You know what? That's where I was going with it. Is that as usual, I felt like there was more on SmackDown that I enjoyed than there was on Raw, and I wanted to ask you: do you feel like in weeks like this? Do you feel like SmackDown is the A show?
Yeah, I tend to like the roster a little more on SmackDown. This week, again, New Day bar. I'm going to do it again. Who was the bar with this week?
Oh, The Miz.
The Miz.
Yep.
Woo!
He was. They were backstage, and he was karate chopping pancakes out of the air with his bandana on his.
That was very entertaining.
Over his eyes.
I like that
very
a lot.
Mr. Miyagi.
And then the Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe stuff.
Right.
Those were the highlights of the week for me this week. And
which is fascinating to think about because they've literally changed the roster up a little bit every year. Mm-hmm. And you would think that at some point, they would pull enough of your favorites off of SmackDown that you wouldn't feel like it's the better show.
Is it the Road Dogg Jesse James? Is he the one who books, or is it Mr.
I believe
Ass?
so. I believe it's Road Dogg. And you just get a feeling
that always mock him, but
you just get a feeling SmackDown's more fun.
Yeah.
Now, when it's bad, it's real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Agreed.
But when it's good, it's oh man, it's just way more fun. And it feels like it doesn't matter what tools you give them over on SmackDown. They're just having a good time.
But I think that in that 2 hours, I think really speaks to having that extra hour, especially when you consider that the extra hour is essentially filled with rehashing things that you've either seen or are going to see.
And that's the dumb thing is like usually I love SmackDown so much that I would welcome an extra hour. I feel to myself. I always feel to myself. It's like, well, I haven't seen Asuka this week. I really will. We haven't seen the Club this week. It would have been cool to see the Club, kind of thing, And even like back before they moved over to Raw, it's like, well, I haven't seen the Ascension and Breezango, so if you want to give me an extra 30 minutes so I can see them for 5 or 10 minutes, I would really appreciate that. But I wonder if that would sustain. I wonder if like 6 months in, I'd be like, God, SmackDown's too long.
That my guess is that is the case. Yeah. But again, so much great product.
Right.
I'm finding myself watching more stuff on YouTube.
We're as we've mentioned before, we're in a golden age of wrestling where it's like, look, if you don't like the mainstream, what the mainstream is feeding you can always go to YouTube, man. You can watch. What were you watching before I got here that you were saying?
Oh, was the boy setting yourself up for the slam dunk here. I was watching your Hybrid S3 YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you tell us a little about that, Mr. Bean?
Oh, well, our good buddy Fred, he wanted to put together this it's Hybrid S3. It's essentially the newest version of Fire Pro Wrestling. He made a bunch of wrestlers. He set the AI to matches, and he set these matches up to be like a knockout MMA almost style wrestling matches, and then he asked me to commentate over them, and I was more than willing to commentate over them. Now, granted, you're not hearing Mr. Bean commentate over him. You're hearing I can't remember the characters' names because this all happened in the early 2000s. So all this Hybrid S3 stuff, but it's kind of fun to watch. It's the kind of thing I was It's another thing that I was thinking of when we were talking about how much I did not like, where the last couple of weeks did not like Raw or SmackDown. I wish the current crop of WWE games would look at some of the original SmackDown games on the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, when they had the original one had a create a pay-per-view mode where you would set up 6 to 8 matches and you could play them or you could let the AI do them. But then it would rate you, like the audience would tell you whether or not they liked the match, kind of thing. Okay, like fun. A 5-star system. Dave Meltzer would essentially let you know how good your match was, kind of thing. And then it would keep track of what your best matches and what pay-per-views they were part of or something like that. And I really wish they could program an algorithm to do that accurately with like the WWE Universe mode. Because I would love to watch Raw and then program that show and watch what the algorithm tells me. Watch if the algorithm also says, yeah, that was a shit show.
The AI is directly based off of Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon only.
Oh, sure. So it's like, well, you didn't have enough big guys in that match.
Where's that large man who likes to eat things? You fired him, sir. What?
He said he didn't like meat wraps, and you just couldn't. But yes, check out Hybrid S3 because it's very fun. It's very fun to do. It's been very fun to watch what the finished product looks like. Because much like any creative endeavor, much like the One Fall show, we sit here and we talk, but I don't know what the end product's going to look like until you post it.
Right.
Because I'm not on the production end of it, and it's the same thing with my other podcast, Nerd Radio. My co-host, I do the production for that, so they don't know what the end product show is going to be. They just show up and be part of the show.
Yeah. So the Hybrid S3, you can find that on YouTube. Episode 1 of a 4-night tournament, I understand, has been posted. So, It's a whole new world for me watching video games play themselves out. So
right, I was gonna ask because I like to watch people do Let's Plays of certain games where they'll talk over watching a game. Like obviously one of the most famous ones was Markiplier playing the Five Nights at Freddy's series, which is great because that is a game full of jump scares. So like if you can't handle playing the game, watching somebody else play the game, you still get to experience the game, and you still get to be like, yeah, that game is great. I couldn't play it, but it's great. The same thing with some games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or something like that. It was like, that game is hard as fuck.
Yeah.
But if I can watch somebody else play it, because I'm not good at it, and that's what I was curious what your experience was watching essentially a wrestling game. I mean, even if it wasn't playing itself, even if you were watching somebody play it.
Yeah, it's just so far out of the realm of my world. I just don't. I get it. I mean, it's no different than watching a human scripted event.
Yeah.
So I don't question people enjoying it. But for me, I was just like, what? Why are we doing? What? I'm not sure what to. But I wanted to make mention of it because you guys are enjoying it, and quite a few people have watched it. So
it is
obviously
interesting.
A thing.
It's definitely the kind of thing that I would love to once again that I would love to like sit and do with like a current WWE game, even if like me and you sat down and played it and then commentated over top of it and fantasy booked the thing. Mm-hmm. Like that would be hilariously fun. But it takes a lot of technical know-how too, and I don't know that you have. I don't know if you have any of it, but I certainly don't.
Yeah,
that's why I don't stream. I would stream video games if I knew how to. But as far as the most I know about it is I can press a button on my PS4 controller and stream a game. That's all I got.
I regret not watching the Super Juniors this week. Somehow I missed that entirely, and by the time I realized it was going on, it was like, oh, it's like trying to catch water in the palm of your hand.
Sure.
But we do have another big event coming from New Japan on, I think, June 9th. Maybe because we're having such a hard time working out these programs between pay-per-views, we should see if we can get Mr. Rakang, who is behind the Hybrid S3 and also a huge fan of Japanese and New Japan wrestling. Maybe we can try to get him on to discuss this upcoming card and get us enthused about something in the wrestling world.
We'll have to figure out the technical know-how, the technical aspect of that.
Yeah, I gotta do what I gotta do, I guess. Ugh.
We gotta learn new skills. That sucks.
Man, we started the show with ugh. We ended the show with ugh.
Right.
Ugh.
You can find me at ugh on Twitter.
Yeah, you can find us at the One Fall Ugh on Facebook.
The Ugh Fall Show.
Ugh media. Have fun. Be safe.
Don't fall in the ugh hole.